during the conference we have to, I'm thinking of the December one, not Arrowhead.
Arrowhead, isn't there an education meeting at that one?
Yeah, September. That would be right.
That's what you're on, is education, right?
Education, yeah.
Right. Okay. Good morning. We have this morning a committee of the whole report from our county libraries, our partners in the library services of Goodhue County. So we will turn it over to our library directors from Goodhue County.
Good morning, and thank you for having us again. My name is Michelle Oddie. I'm the director at Kenyon. I'm going to let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
I'm James Hill, the director of the Zumbrota Public Library.
I'm Brigitte Rawl, the director at Lake City.
Dan Brower, director at Redwood Public Library.
And I see online we have Rachel Gray from Pine Island. I believe Nicole
Hi
Miller.
there.
And Nicole Miller from Camp Falls. And Krista Ross, SELCO Executive Director, is also joining us online. So this is our year in review from 2024. We had 246,720 patron visits last year. You can see the breakdown at each of the locations. That's about a 5% increase from 2023 in patron traffic. Library programs. We had about 200 more programs offered in 24 than 23, which is about a 13% increase. And our total program attendance there was 28,553. How libraries are used: test proctoring, supervised visitation, social services, tutoring, book clubs, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, nonprofit organizations, public health, Elder Network, AARP, tax assistance, safe driving classes, and social services. Libraries are community space. This possibly might be the only public space accessible for certain services or organizations, and I know that for sure in a small town. Total items circulated was 445,740. That does include our digital circulation. And so from that total circulation, we can subtract approximately 50,000 items that were digitally circulated. And in the county circulation, it's broken down there by each location, 88,454 items. And that's only counting our physical circulation because we don't have a way to break down that digital circ for our county patrons. Libraries are not just books. We circulate board games, breakout kits, Chromebooks, draft check packs, explorer packs, framed artwork, hotspots, jigsaw puzzles, Kindles, power check packs, puppets, STEAM kits, storytime kits. If it has anything to do with literacy or education, we're going to try and supply that. Online services, the e-audiobooks and e-books, we provide that through Libby and also through the eLibrary Minnesota and eBooks Minnesota. Genealogy work, assistance as well, homework help, job assistance, language instruction, magazines, and movies. You can see our total Wi-Fi sessions there, 19,791. And I believe that was a small decrease from the previous year. I do think that internet accessibility is getting better throughout the county, so that number might go down a little bit. Computer sessions, a total of 19,673, which is actually a nearly 12% increase. And we do see this trending. People are coming in to use our physical computers. I stated this last year, and it's still a rising trend. People have gotten rid of printers. They may only have a phone for internet access, and you can't do everything on a phone or a tablet. So people are coming to the library to use our physical computers, and I believe the next slide says how they are being used between burning permits, job applications, legal documents, personal use, online courses, online shopping, training, social service applications, tax prep, test proctoring, and travel documents. Total of 415,779 website views. You can see that broken down by how many visitors were at each website location and the total views, which is pretty consistent from last year, actually. It is going down. I think people just get their information in different ways. I wish we had a way to track social media, because we all have a, social media presence, whether that be Instagram or Facebook, and people just get their information that way instead. And we unfortunately don't have a way to track that.
Nor the accuracy of it.
That's also true. I touched on this already. The library is a business center. People come in also for like faxing services, scanning services, laminating copies, and notary services. In this day and age, more people are working from home, but they may not have everything at home, so they're coming to the library.
Does every library have a notary?
We don't in Kenyon, but we're in the same building as City Hall, and they have a notary
They
right
have a
there.
notary.
So I've looked into it, but it just doesn't make much sense. Anybody else can? Yeah. And then our Goodhue County collaborations. Again, our collaborations are very robust. We, like I said, increased programming this year by 200 programs throughout the county. And our locations, and a lot of those programs are partnered with these area organizations.
That's quite a list.
It is quite the list, so I'm
Really
not going to
good.
go through all of them, obviously, unless you have something. And that's about it. It's pretty standard. We've been very successful over the last year. People are still supporting libraries, and so I want to just say thank you for your continued support of our libraries, and we'll field any questions if you have any.
Go ahead.
I know the beginning of May, all the libraries went through a changeover of new software, right? I think everybody knows changing over software is very difficult. How's it going now?
As with any big migration, and I think we were using the same database for 22 years, so it's been a big change, but we'll adjust. I think that this system is going to be much better than what we had, but yes, it's going to take time to just get back on track, figure out workflows, but I think overall it's been super successful, but I can only speak really for Kenyon on that, but I think it's just a learning curve. But we definitely needed an upgrade. The old database was very limiting, and so this is a good change, a direction that we needed to go in. But yes, it can be challenging.
How long does one kind of think that it takes to get new database up and rolling? Do you think you'll?
Depends on the database. I mean, ours is, thanks to James, it's going very well.
Oh, excellent.
There's a little more bare bones than some, but, so we're kind of taking the first little bit, 6 months to a year or two, kind of say, oh, we would like to have this.
Okay.
To us, or we would like to have this function. And eventually we'll get there, and for the most part, we were able to let our patrons know, and everybody's been really, really understanding and patient, and at Lake City anyway.
Yeah, in my experience in these types of migrations, I've usually seen between 6 months and a year out, just
Okay.
to straighten out the various data issues that arise, and then there's the training component, both from the administrative standpoint as well as the individual staffing of the libraries. And one of the things that's unique about this particular region is that we have 36 different libraries on this system, and we're all federated, so we all have different policies, we all have different administrative things that we do in the system that can vary greatly between library to library, not only because we're in different cities and municipalities, but we're also different sizes. So, Zambrota's needs from a system are different than Red Wings, for instance. So, trying to mesh all that together and be cohesive is one of the more challenging aspects of a migration of this type.
All right, thank you.
Susan?
I wondered if your funding streams look pretty stable, and then I also wondered what headwinds you see for libraries in the coming year or two, if any.
No, our funding streams are so terrible at the moment. We actually need approximately a 15% increase from the county at this time.
Our
If
funding
you could put
streams
that under
aren't so good
consideration
either,
at your board
so.
meeting, we would appreciate that. Thank you. No, I think that, we're one of those entities that always struggle a bit with funding, simply because, we don't have the same revenue generating aspects that other, governmental departments might have. So that's one part of it. We're a service to the community, and we have a real educational focus, but we're not a school. And so the things that we do aren't necessarily as valued, I think, as some of those other services. But I would argue that they're very much as important because, I sort of feel that, a literate population is very, very good for the community. And, typically, teenagers who come to the library aren't the ones that you see in your jails. So I think it's an important thing to teach literacy at a young age. And we provide not just the short-term benefits, but the long-term benefits as well. And I think that's more difficult for other places to see.
I was just going to comment on that as well. I mean, being a small library in Kenyon, I'm just going to have a smaller budget, obviously, than obviously Red Wing or even Zumbrota. I would love to be able to afford one more full-time person to offer so many more things, but it's limiting when I can't afford to hire another full-time person to offer more one-on-one assistance or more adult services and additional support that way, which definitely Kenyon could use. But we don't have those resources, so we do the best we can. And libraries, they're all-encompassing. We could do so many things. There's really, the sky's the limit in what kind of services you can offer to your community. So, but there's just limited resources, of course. And we do the best that we can, and I'm very proud of what we do.
This is Rachel in Pine Island. I was just going to kind of piggyback on what both of these two have said regarding the fact that the library is really the only place people can go in the community without being expected to spend money. So we are a really good resource that way, as well as the community center and just a place to get information. So just wanted to add that.
I was just going to add, we are resourceful people, all of us, and working with a limited budget is something that we're all pretty great at, frankly. I was just reviewing our budget for preparation for the next year, and I realized that our book costs are going up significantly for several reasons we could go into. But right now, we are working at, if we are comparing ourselves to like 2021, 3 years ago, we are $4,000, we're operating with $4,000 less for our book budget than we were in 2021 because we've absorbed the rising cost. It's becoming a lot more drastic, and we're not going to be able to do that anymore, but it's something that probably isn't going to go away. And it's just been interesting to observe, especially in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. Even just in the last year, it's gone up, and book availability has been reduced to, for the vendors that we use that give us a pretty significant discount. We're having to use Amazon, which is like on average $7 more per new book than we're paying at other distributors. So there are, even if we are well-funded, I'm a very well-funded library, we are well-supported, we still have financial issues that are coming down the road, and it's a little bit daunting. Yeah.
You just made me think of something that I did want to address. In terms of funding and our expenditures, we face a lot of the same issues that you face constantly with, we're primarily service-based, so a majority of our expenditure comes from personnel costs. And so we have to be compliant with pay equity to the state regulations. So when the city enters into union contracts, even if we're not unionized, we have to follow the adjusted pay scales to keep up with the pay equity scales. So that drives up our personnel costs, and since more than 50% of our budget is in personnel, then that drives our overall operational budget up, in addition to the inflation costs that you're used to. So by the time you end up
think that we can't, I'll just talk louder. I don't
Oh,
think that
works.
we can talk about support without talking about friends groups. Our friends group has provided more than twice our actual programming budget. So we're able to offer far more programs without having to raise our budget for the city and therefore raise the levy and tax base. They're wonderful if you have a friends group.
I just wanted to add that, so you asked about headwinds, and funding has always been a challenge for libraries, and I have felt like in my 11 years as a director, that seems to be the challenge that I have, the biggest challenge every year. And right now, there's the push at the federal and state level to eliminate wasteful spending and eliminate programs that don't seem to benefit everyone. And at Red Wing City Council meetings, I gave a presentation on the value that libraries provide as a return on investment. And for every $1 that Red Wing Library gets in taxes, we leverage that into almost $5 in services. And when you break that down per our patrons, they're saving approximately $375 a year if they were to go out and use the computers to buy the books, to use whatever we have. And I feel like as a resident, saving $375, it may not sound like a lot, but for a lot of people, that's a lot of money, especially when we're talking about we need to keep our levies flat, we need to find ways to reduce and save people money. The library is already doing that. So,
Any other questions? Just a comment. I really appreciate the county circulation and the total circulation. I really think that's important for us to realize because we are the ones that are taxing the out-county residents for this piece. So it's good to know that. I'm also just blown away by the number of programs, the sheer number of programs that the libraries around the county offer. The one question I do have is, is their school library part public library? Is it all school library?
It's all school library.
They function as a community library.
Yes, but only in the summer, I believe. Yes. They're kind of both, but I believe since they're a school, they're no longer on the SELCO.
They are still
They are.
community library. They're just not on our.
Go ahead.
Yep.
You know more. You talk, James. You're better.
They are still a community. They still function as a community library, and they still receive a portion of the Goodhue County funding. They're no longer on the same system that Commissioner Flanders mentioned that we migrated to. However, they will have their own system and operate and still receive deliveries of materials.
Because I know when I was on the SELCO board and there was talk of merging the public libraries and the school library system together, and I think eventually, I don't think it is together, it's still separate. And it was interesting to go through that process. Also, the state funding that came down, I know there was a change in it. Was it advantageous to libraries or in our region or any region, or did they not increase SELCO or regional library dollars from the state?
It's my understanding that there was an increase and adjustment to the formula that SELCO receives from the state. I see Krista's on here. She might be able to better speak to that as the executive director of the organization.
Yeah. Krista?
Yes, when they increased the dollars, that did increase the base, which is divided equally among the 12 regions. That went from approximately $57,000 to $219,000, and that is the most stable part of the formula. Now, the equalization, which is now 15%, is still volatile, so we still see little waves, but it did allow us to make good on the promise that the SELCO board made to the public libraries, that when we saw an increase in funding and a stabilization of the formula, that we would reduce their fees. And we did. We moved most, if not all, of the technology fees into RLBSS, into the state funding. If you look at our most recent budget, or the most recent budget in fiscal 25, which we just ended, fees went as a portion of our budget from about 35% to 20% of our revenue, and our budget expenditures from 35%. So we are working in the right direction to try and take that burden off of our libraries and move it into as much state funding as we can when that's sustainable. So we're not boomeranging on our libraries, moving it from state funding back to them and back and forth.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I hadn't heard how that turned out altogether, and it's good to know that. I think the one misnomer kind of when we get this report is we call it a SELCO report, and it's really not a SELCO report. It's really our county libraries, and the levy dollars that we levy that go to that we say go to SELCO, they go directly to the libraries. They're just the facilitator to get it to the libraries. So every dollar we levy ends up in our local libraries. It does not end up at SELCO at all.
Thank you.
So it's good to know that and good to remember that when we talk about the funding, that it does directly impact our libraries 100%. So.
Yeah, SELCO is required by state law to enter into agreement with the counties, because the counties are mandated to be members of SELCO, but then essentially the individual city libraries ultimately provide the services. So the money does pass through SELCO. They have to be party to the agreement, but 100% of the funds come to the individual libraries in which we spend and report on.
Any other questions? Any questions from staff? And I think are we in year 3 of our 3-year contract with the libraries? So next year we will be.
It's ongoing, though.
It's ongoing, so, yeah. No. I think, having sat on the SELCO board, I think Goodhue County's method is one that everybody in southeast Minnesota wishes they were at least the library side does. So, but excellent report. Jim, do you have something more to say?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think at one point, Mr. Arneson knows that it was difficult to get to that point where we reached an agreement, but once we did and we said it, it's been, I think, very good for both sides, and we're very happy to have that agreement, and we really appreciate the support that you've provided us.
Well, and the stability of it also helps the cities when they're budgeting, that they know what to expect 2 years down the road from the county side of it. So that it's advantageous for all involved. So excellent. Any other questions from you? Any other questions from the SELCO staff? All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take a few minutes, and we'll start our board meeting at 9.
Yep. So yeah, the red light was not staying on.
She's having a lot of fun.
She's great.
She,
Testing.
well, it should get better, I'll just tell you that, because she's moving to Lake City, so.